In May, well, it is May now. Vic is an assistant city manager for the city of Sanford and the driving force behind one of the most significant regional infrastructure achievements in NC history. Let's make some noise for that. An NCSU trained engineer, Czar has served the city of Sanford since 1990, holding positions of city engineer and public works director before rising to assistant city manager. In that role, he oversaw the creation of TriRiver Water, the utility now serving both Lee and Chatham counties. Now, I have met Vic briefly, and he told me he's more comfortable talking about water than himself. So please, put your hands together for Vic Czar. Okay, we have a stool there now. We have water.
We're going to utilize this table.
Is that water from TriRiver?
Absolutely.
Okay. How many of you know somebody who's over the top passionate about a subject that you know nothing about? Yeah, a lot of hands, right? I feel this way about you. Already, just in the short time we've met, your passion for water and the future, water capacity in Chatham and Sanford is pretty incredible. So you instructed me not to ask you any personal questions.
Absolutely.
So, what's your favorite color?
I'm actually colorblind.
But you're colorblind.
There's one of the 3 facts.
Oh, 3 facts. Okay. So you're gonna have to eat that mic because I'm a very loud talker on the microphone. You have to get it.
This is great, I think.
That's great. Okay, so now we know 2 truths and a lie. If we play a bar game, Vic is colorblind. Tell me about how you kind of came into the fold. It says here, obviously, you've been here for a long time, but paint a picture for your time working with Sanford and how you've seen this water situation change since you've come to Sanford.
Okay, I think it's connected with my whole career in Sanford. I was employed in January 8th, 1990, my first day. And when I walked in the door, part of the conversation was Sanford is on the precipice of growth. Okay? We had a 2-lane road to Raleigh that didn't go through Apex anymore. Hey, this is the thing. This is the thing that's going to kick us off. 35 years later, we are on the precipice of growth. Okay. But I think the point was, from the very beginning, it was always trying to look forward to how to make something happen, and recognizing that infrastructure is important for things like this, and houses to grow, and commercial development, and those kinds of things. So I would give credit to the person that hired me. It did not take him long to take me into a map room that we have and just start pointing to things and saying, hey, look, you need to be thinking about how we're going to do this so that people have the access to water and sewer that is necessary for this kind of growth. So I didn't know it at the time. I was young and stupid. I'm old and stupid, but I was learning lessons that I didn't even know I was learning. I guess it's kind of like being a parent. You teach your kids stuff they don't know you're teaching them. But the point is, I think that laid the groundwork and triggered something in me about, hey, this is a bigger problem than just how to put a water line into this building. And what do we need to do, and how do we need to prepare? And be ready, because at some point, west of Jordan Lake is going to look a whole lot like east of Jordan Lake. Exactly when, we didn't know. Exactly what was the trigger, we didn't know. But we do know that water and wastewater are key to allow this to happen. And just by geography, we're located in a place where we have access to the Cape Fear River, which is a large, healthy body of water that can help support some of these things. So that may have actually kind of introduced a little of, stewardship or something maybe, right? We have a role to play here, and just don't lose sight of it.
The question that's on everybody's mind is, if a zombie apocalypse were to break out, how many days could we go without water?
None.
Good answer. So do you want to give a backstory on, for people in the room who might not be aware, the capacity challenges of Chatham and how TriRiver is going to be the key partnership, the regional partnership that unlocks that potential for healthy managed growth in Chatham.
Yeah, Chatham County is, they are in a position that growth is coming, if that's what they choose to do. You know, you've got some municipalities, you've got South City, you've got Pittsburgh, and you got the Montclair area that is, you know, an area. I think it's been identified in some of the county planning documents that urban type growth should happen in these areas. Pittsburgh was limited. They've got a water plant that can do like 2 million gallons a day, a wastewater plant that can do, I don't know, 750,000 gallons a day. And that's just not enough. And what needs to happen? How does that need to look for this growth to be able to be unlocked? Okay. The people that work in Pittsburgh are hardworking people, and they did a great job every day. But they just didn't have the exposure, I don't believe, to some of the things that we had in Sanford. We have over a dozen people in pre-treatment program, which is an industry that has to treat waste before we receive it, because our wastewater plant treats domestic waste. So they got to get the levels down to where we can treat it. I don't know that Pittsburgh had any. They certainly are going to get some now that things are happening. And what that created was sometimes we had to go find ways to increase capacity. Well, when you do that, it takes a lot of money. This is one expensive business, there's no doubt about it.
Can you give a scale?
We're expanding our water treatment facility from 12 million gallons a day to 30 million gallons a day. It's costing $400 million.
$400 million.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a good data point.
Yeah.
It's a serious business.
It is a serious business. But I think we had some knowledge and some backgrounds that some of the people in Pittsburgh didn't. I think that was one of the bigger things that was missing. They ran the wastewater plant great. They ran the water plant great. They could get water back and forth to you. They had some challenges. PFAS, everybody in the room probably knows about PFAS in Pittsburgh. They've addressed it, but they just didn't have that component. And I think that's one thing that we kind of wrong. Okay, well, you put that in with the fact that we do have access to bigger water sources, the Cape River and the Deep River. We got a 12 million gallon a day wastewater plant on the Deep River. We're looking at expanding it to 18 million gallons a day. Hopefully get money in this year's budget to start the design. We're already in negotiations to buy property. But those kinds of things we're aware of, and we're aware that they need to happen so that we can create capacity so that Pittsburgh and South City can grow. And if you go down 15501 to Sanford, you see a bunch of pipes going down the road, another $100 million, where we can get 7 million gallons a day of wastewater from Pittsburgh to the Sanford treatment plant. Now, once it gets there, it's got nowhere to go. We've got to do something about that. Right? We have capacity for 3 to 4 million gallons a day today, but that's why we're looking at expanding it, not just for Pittsburgh, but for ourselves, because we're a regional utility, and we have to look out for Sanford as well as South City and Pittsburgh.
Well, sorry, I think you and I are very different volumes. You might have eaten that. You got to get that microphone right. Okay. That's perfect. That's good. That's good. You mentioned regional partnerships. You mentioned time, but also vision. How did Sanford be in the catbird seat for kind of having the vision to get ahead of the curve on water capacity? And we spend a lot of time, a lot of the guest speakers that we have here, we spend a lot of time trying to expand thought around regional development, regional partnerships, not just seeing Chatham County as a glass dome, but there's some key partnerships that are needed all around us. What are the X factors for Sanford, and when did that really begin? I know you mentioned earlier 2018. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. First, I've got great people that work for me, and they do everything that I need to do, so I sit around in my office wondering what to do. Hey, where do I get water? That's what I need to do. There is a component of that. That's half facetious and half true. And I think it creates an environment where everybody's thinking a little more future focused, if you will, right? And what does it take to make that happen? Again, geography. We're close to the river. We have a responsibility here, how to deal with this thing.
But you had also said, I just want to interject, you had
Yeah.
also said specifically, you're being humble right now, but you had mentioned earlier that it was a sort of a collective mindset within Sanford to be open-minded
Correct.
to the growth, but also to be receptive to the growth challenges.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I would put that in the council's been very supportive. It takes a minute to show them the benefits of regionalization. I'll give you an example. We knew we needed to expand our water plant. We were getting to summer days where we had demands of 10 million gallons a day or more, and our plant was permitted for 12 million gallons a day. Well, that's a problem, right? I mean, your water is worked off of peak demands. And just think of Ocean Isle Beach. They need a whole lot more water July the 4th than they need January the 4th. So it's driven by those peak demands. So we knew we had to do something in our water plant. We were looking at expanding it for ourselves to by 6 million gallons a day. It was going to cost us, at that time, $90 million for ourselves. So then we started saying, hey, this is a lot of money to put on the ratepayers. How can we do something here? What are some of the opportunities that we have to help offset some of this cost? We went looking for partners. And long story short, at that time, based on those estimates, our share of a water plant that we would make bigger was only $50 million. So we could save $40 million by getting other people in here.
Smart, yeah.
So that's when we started looking for other people. That's when we ended up with Holly Springs. That's when we ended up with Fuquay, right? And it's a pretty easy business case to say, hey, look, we can save tons of money up front, and there are fixed costs running a water plant, and we can split this. We can only have 2/3 of these costs if we get people to come in for a third. So the business case is there, right? And once you start to make those points, people start coming along. But then you still got the political point, and you've got the point of, hey, we're giving away our water, right? That's the simple statement. And the answer is, well, not really. First off, and I'll give credit to my boss on this, he says it's not our water, okay? It's a blue line on a map, which means it's waters of the state, which by definition is public. If we don't go get it, somebody else is going to go get it. So you need to keep in mind that you're not giving away your water. You're being a steward of the water to other people.
Right.
And it's a mindset, right, on how you deal with it. And then the idea of rising tide lifts all boats, right? Chatham Park is good for Sanford. Chatham Park is going to bring attention to the area. Not everybody's going to want to live in Chatham Park. Some people are going to want to live in Sanford, what Sanford has to offer that Chatham Park doesn't, or vice versa.
Right.
So I think the recognition of it's a region, and that's where we're going, right? That's the whole genesis of this idea,
Yep.
is that, hey, this is more of a regional approach because of cost and benefits, right? We can share costs, which helps everybody's rates stay as low as they can be. They're going to go up, there's no doubt about it, because it's just an expensive business and everything costs more every day. I mean, my power bill goes up, everything else goes up. But we can help spread these costs across a wider customer base.
Yeah, to think regionally, it seems, the way you describe it, it sounds very obvious, but obviously there's, like you said, there's challenges at the municipal level that you have to solve to get people to think regionally, to not. And I think Chatham has struggled for a long time with its identity being securely a neighboring community where it can kind of sort of self-isolate, and it could share the benefit of neighboring counties' commercial resources without having to really contend with its own issues. And I think that a regional approach now is kind of the only, it seems to be the only way forward. You mentioned regional approach. So we've had a lot of people also speak on advanced manufacturing sites. We've had a lot of people speak around this idea that regionally there's things happening. There's some stuff happening in Liberty. There's some factories coming here. Michael Smith from the EDC had mentioned that you, again, you're humble, but I'm going to brag on you, that you are coming along with Chatham Economic Development Corporation visits to win over manufacturers to come to Chatham. I think that's amazing. And do you want to talk about that regional development?
Yeah, one of the big things that happened early in the regional approach is our willingness to serve the Moncur mega site with sewer. I mean, it was a great site, it had a lot of things going for it from an economic development perspective. But wastewater treatment, or access to wastewater treatment was one of the problems. And we were asked, actually we volunteered, to look into the ability to serve it. Again, I think it was 75% of the people that work in the Araco and the fiberboard and all that stuff, 75% of those people had Sanford zip codes. So job creation in Moncure has helped with us.
Right.
Right? Again, it's one of these facts that you just tell people, it's like, you can try to do this on your own, but you need to realize that you're not out there. You can't. You really can't.
And there's some data points there too, for if you're not aware. I mean, I don't want to give the very specific number, but the amount of first responders and teachers that teach in Chatham that don't live in Chatham, that likely a good percentage of those live in Sanford.
Right.
That's just one little example of it's a shared workforce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, and that's when we started. We got into going to site visits with various companies and whatnot that they're interested in, the mega site, in and around the mega site, different scales. Right? I mean, some are real large and some are not so big, but they're all important because they all address a different aspect of the economy with different employment opportunities. And I dare say, without Sanford's participation in there, I'm not sure the mega site would be where it is today. At least it's a success story on our side, we think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a positive for me.
You had mentioned earlier, I mean, you're in a high stakes business, right? It's a high stakes game of poker. It takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of courage to kind of bet on the future. You had mentioned earlier, you're pretty transparent about the moments that you didn't get it right. And Sanford, by extension, you seem like you said that from a leadership standpoint, they feel the same way. Do you want to talk about any of the war stories of TriRiver and some challenges you've had to face?
Yeah, I mean, the challenges are well, I'll give you a specific example. 2010-ish, we went to Raleigh because we knew we needed to expand our wastewater plant. It was getting close to capacity and whatnot, and you go through this whole process. You got to be with the state. It's great. You got 24 months and nothing to do, we bring you along. But we got this snarky letter from the state that said, "No, you can't increase your wastewater plant." Okay, can we have a meeting, please, so that we can talk about it? Sure. And we go up there with like 4 people. Okay, we thought we were bringing up a lot of people. We enter a room and there must be this many people in there from the state. It's like, holy cow, what are we getting into here? And the first thing the guy says is like, well, the first thing we say is, we want to expand the wastewater plant, we got this letter. It says we can. And the man says, yeah, let me tell you about that letter. We're sorry about that letter. You can expand your wastewater plant as long as your new plant doesn't need any more pounds of constituents in the river.
What is a constituent?
I'll get there.
Okay.
As the existing plant is. And the constituent is like BOD, it's biological oxygen.
Okay.
You know, those kinds of things. The things that we treat for. The things that are in everybody's waste that goes down the pipe and comes to us, we get concentrated. We need to make it okay to put it into rivers for a lot of reasons. So this meeting that we had in Raleigh that we thought was going to take 4 hours took like 14 minutes. Okay? But what it did was it put a burden back on us. We were thinking about going from 6.8 MGD to 9 MGD. Okay? That's 1 million gallons a day. Yeah, it creates capacity for people to connect.
Can I ask you to put it in context? What does the average person produce in water usage, waste, the whole thing, per day? Is there a number there?
Yeah, actual usage, it's probably somewhere around 40 to 50 gallons per day per person, actual usage.
40 to 50 gallons per day.
Yeah, it depends on exactly some certain things, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Not a bad number. But when you design things, you design it for way more than that.
Right.
For factors of safety.
Is there a multiplier? Is there a 2x, 3x, 4x? Like, how do you build in that growth?
Okay, there's 2 answers to your question. One is from a permit perspective. You could use 75 gallons per day or some other number if you get local things approved. And that creates some factors of safety, right? When you flip it around, the other question you're rarely asking is how big do you make a wastewater plant? And that's where I'm headed with my story.
Gotcha.
So great
Okay. I'm trying.
But so it puts burden on us about this. How big do we make this wastewater plant? My boss said to me, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, I think we'll make 12." That was in 2015, and it's 2022, and we're running 4. Good thing, bad thing. I don't know. Right. The existing ratepayers are paying more than they would have had to, because we only go up 9. But we've got opportunities to connect to Pittsburgh, so Chatham's working grow.
So
win or loss, not really sure.
Well, a 14-minute conversation, it leads to a future outcome where there's a partnership.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's a hard sell when you're talking to people that. Any politicians in the room? Their vision of the future is the next election.
Right.
And you work in that context, right? How can we get these two things together? How can the things in my world that take decades match up with the things in your world that take just a couple of years?
Well, and I can only relate. So, anecdotal story about my septic system. I'm very connected to this subject right now. I told somebody this past week, I said, it's the most adult thing I've ever done. To buy a concrete box that's going to store my excrement. I'm going to bury it in the ground and never see it again. And it's going to outlast me. And I told somebody that I built a poo pyramid. And I was by myself at the house when they were installing this. And I haven't told anybody this, but I'm going to tell you now. I signed this tank. I signed my name on this septic tank. I just thought, this might be my one chance at greatness here. So, I'm with you, dude. Water's important. TMI, I guess, but you're welcome to use my bathroom anytime. I've got 1,200 gallons of water capacity. It'll take 10 days to fill the tank up. I know this now. Any highlights before we open up the floor to questions? Any highlights that you want to share? You are truly passionate about what you do, which to me is the most important thing. And you have a heart for regional development, for stewardship, and I hope that's conveyed to everybody who's been listening to you today. Do you have any fun facts, any exciting information that you want to share?
There's very little exciting in my world. But I will say this. I do think how you feel about it is your own personal thing. I do think that Lee and Chatham County are in a place that growth is really right out the doorstep. How you manage it is how you get some of the outcomes you want. Right? It's going to be hard stuff. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, growth is going to come. But how you manage it to look like how you want it to look is the bigger question, I think. And a regional approach, I think, and again, this is just my opinion, is a better way to handle this water and wastewater situation from a couple of angles. One, I think it helps spread the costs, so everybody pays less than they have to without it. Second thing that we didn't really talk about, I think is important, is you got one voice asking for things instead of 3 or 4 sources competing for the same resource, which just creates unneeded aggravation, right? We're talking to these people on a daily basis so that when we go make an ask, it's for the group rather than, hey, I'm in Sanford and I need some more water, so I go to Raleigh and they start talking to people in Southern City and all of a sudden everybody's back at the table again. I think it will speed things up.
Yeah, collective bargaining.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just is it's an ancillary benefit to this, I think, that will save you time, which is helpful in the development business because they're all about mitigating risk and they're trying to, navigate a bunch of their own issues they got going on.
Right.
So, to me, that's exciting and boring life. Yeah, that's why I have 3 interesting facts about myself. But to me, that has value. So that's, I think, the answer to your question.
Yeah, awesome. So now we open up the floor for questions. Man, the hands just